right here. All right, guys, so welcome to the video, second video of my new YouTube channel. I have with me here a very special guest, a guy I grew up with, Darius Turner. So I'll introduce you here in a second and we'll get talking. But first of all, for those of you who are watching, make sure if you enjoy the video to like the video, comment whether you like it or don't like it, share it with everybody that you know, and then most importantly, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you get notified every time there is a new video. On this channel, I'm going to be bringing on a lot of different people. We're going to be talking about a lot of different important things between business and politics and current events. This is going to be your favorite YouTube channel, so make sure you hit the subscribe button. So that being said, I want to introduce my guest here, Darius. The reason I'm having him on here is because he is someone you don't really hear about much in the mainstream media. You don't hear about these types of people. And by these types of people, what I mean is Darius is a proud conservative who is also a Black person. So he is going to enlighten us on what it is like being a Black person who is a conservative in America today in 2020. Darius, just to get us rocking here, if you could start off just by telling us a little bit about yourself, your upbringing, and what you're about, what you believe, and kind of what led you to being the way you are.
Hey everyone, my name is Darius Turner. Like Alex said, I am a proud Black conservative. I'm also a strong Christian. As far as growing up, I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. I grew up there for around 9-10 years, and then I recently moved to Ohio around 14 years ago. I've been here ever since. I do consider Ohio my home, but Louisville will always have my heart. As far as what led me to this point and getting here to this, I would say it's my father. My father, he's been a strong influence in my life. My father, he's always taught me, he's trained me from right and wrong, and his teachings is unconventional compared to other parents. But overall, I can't help but say that I would have it no other way. As far as how I started, I think I'd say I started off pretty normal as pretty much everyone else. Growing up, you see injustice, you see inequality, you see the things going on in the world. Of course, you want to be outraged. You get emotional. Seeing Black men dying in the street is nothing comfortable for me. Seeing the racial injustice going on in our country is nothing comfortable for me. But I knew speaking out back then about what I wanted to do, especially from a liberal standpoint, as some people would call it, it wasn't a solution for me. I knew I had to do more than that. And my solution for that was to gain
I'm
different
sorry,
perspectives. I've
Darius,
been all over Ohio.
I'm sorry, you cut out. What did you say your solution was?
My solution was to gain different perspectives, go out, really have an open mind and ask people and like, hey, what do you think about this? Gain different perspectives as far as, okay, I see what you're doing right here, but have you thought of it like this? And one of the things that really opened my eyes was moving to Cincinnati for a couple years and staying on campus. Campus isn't really what you say a suburban area. It's more run down. It's more of in the neighborhood, as you'd say, more in the Black neighborhood. And in that time, I wasn't spending it with rich people. I wasn't spending it with college kids. I was actually spending a lot of time with the homeless. And I met a lot of great people in Cincinnati streets who don't really have much, but they have a lot of hope. And one of the things they was hopeful for was Obama. They love Obama. They love this change. They loved everything that he did for them. But I look around and I see that for the love that you guys have for that man, he hasn't done much for this community. How do we change that? And so that's the question I keep asking myself. How do we change that? How do we get there? So I find myself with when Trump was running, of course, we get to that pivotal moment of 2016. Everyone's talking about the lesser of two evils.
Mhm.
I was weighing them out too. And one of the things that really spoke out to me and really made me decide was to pray, read the Bible, get wisdom, get understanding. I was reading that in Proverbs the other day. And I really just trusted God on my decision making on who I wanted to be as president of this great country. Who's going to lead us through these turbulent times, through these stressful times, and most importantly, who's going to make the tough decisions without backtracking, without saying, "Hey, I'm sorry, oh, I didn't mean that, my fault." But Donald Trump was really that person for me. So going into the booth, man, I was scared like everybody else. But stepping out onto my faith, speaking out about God, revealing Christian truths, hey, that's a very tough decision for me. I lost a lot of friends doing that. I lost a lot of people that I thought were friends. But God was like, those aren't your friends. Let me show you something greater.
Right.
Let me show you something more. Let me show you something that's along your path, what you want to do, and that serves me as well. You keep me first. I'll put you first. And, that's what I did right there. And as far as looking back, I really haven't. I'm proud of the choices that I've made. I see the mistakes I've done in the past and go, yeah, that was me. That was me. But let me show you who I am. And so as far as conservatism and things like that, I do have a stance on that. I started this thing a couple years ago, and I ask this question to people all the time. It's, have you tried living life without labels? And in today's America, we want to label everything. Everything is materialistic. Everyone wants to say, oh, you're this or you're that, and they expect you to act a certain way. Or because you talk a certain way online, they think, oh, you follow a strict set of rules outside of work or outside online. And I wanted to show people that, no, that's not who I am. And as much as I do support Trump, I'm not always have conservative values. As much as I do speak out about Christ and things like that, it doesn't mean I'm a hardcore religious person. I like to think that I have a relationship with Jesus Christ, not just worshiping the religion or
Right.
following the religion and its values.
Right.
So it's just a little bit about me.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you mentioned earlier, and I've experienced much of a similar thing, by the way, that when I went out and I supported Donald Trump, a lot of people who I thought were my friends ended up not being my friends and cutting me off, and a lot of people close to me. Could you tell us a little bit more about what it's like? I mean, could you dive deeper into some of that stuff with, are most people that you know Trump supporters, or are not a lot of them Trump supporters?
One thing I've noticed with my friend groups, with my family, I know I'm comfortable in saying this, is that my dad, he's a very proud Trump supporter, even though he's a registered Democrat. And he loves everything that Trump's doing. And he was one of the people that was showing me, it was like, he said, man, look at all the things that Trump's doing. I remember coming home and talking about, like, oh, Dad, look what Obama's done. He's like, and he just went, he wouldn't make that face like, yeah. But when you talk to him about Trump, he's very open about it. He's very happy about it. He's very proud of Donald Trump. He stands by his president. And as far as friend groups go, they like to play the middle, especially people around our age. They think by playing the middle, they're not going to hurt anyone's feelings. Mm-hmm. They can get by throughout the day. Hey, this person's still going to buy me a drink when we hit to the bar. But, as Roddy Piper said in the movie They Live, no one's ever gained anything by walking in the middle. And, you could walk that straight white line all you want. You're not going to get anywhere. No solutions are getting done. You're still going to experience the same racial inequality. So I tell people, hey, if you're going to hang with me, know that I've already picked a side. Know that I already chose who I support at the end of the day. Know that the God that I worship at the end of the day. And if you're cool with that, that's cool. I'm not going to force any of this on you. I'm not going to say, hey, you got to be a follower of Christ if you're going to be friends with me. I'm not doing that to nobody. If you're friends with me, you're friends with me. Be cool. But if not, hey, I'll see you, man. We'll catch you on the other side.
Yeah. Now, outside of your dad, with the rest of your family, your aunts, your uncles, are most of them conservative or liberal?
I wouldn't really know per se. Moving to Ohio has really estranged me from most of my extended family.
Okay.
As far as like my brothers go, our brothers are not really conservative. I consider them more as Christian. They do what's
Right.
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 At the end of the day, my twin did not vote. My younger brother, I don't think he voted when he was 18, but I know my mom and my dad, they went out and they voted. I don't know who my mom really voted for. I didn't really ask her much. I don't really talk politics with her. You know, it's more of just a regular mom-son relationship. Hey, mom, how you doing? But
Sure.
with my dad, you know, I know he's very strong. He's very outspoken supporter of Trump. He's very outspoken supporter of Christ as well.
Right on. Right on. Now, a lot of talk going on right now about police brutality, and before we dive into the police brutality, the George Floyd, Black Lives Matter. First of all, in your personal experience, have you experienced racism growing up, and if so, what was it? What was that like?
As far as experiencing racism growing up, I never really dealt with racism until I moved to Ohio. And as far as like my mom, she wanted better opportunity for herself and for her children. So she moved and uprooted the family out to Ohio. And we moved to Worthington City Schools, and that's where we grew up for a majority for the rest of our childhood. For me and David, it was sixth grade on, all the way till we graduated. For my little brother, it was a little bit earlier. It was fourth grade on.
Mm.
And you could see how, I don't think it was intentional, but I think it's the way people were raised. You could see how someone's different, and they like to point that out. And one of the main things for me was me and David were twins, and David has always had a lighter skin tone than I have. And then people wanted to know about that. They're like, oh, why are you so dark? Or why are you so this and why are you so that? And that used to really affect me. You know, how I walked in for even a short minute, wasn't proud of my skin color and who I was. It really took me moving out on my own, being with other people of my race, of my color, my culture, to get me confident about myself, reminding me of who I am. You know, God, reading the Bible, reading about the ancient Hebrews and the Israelites, and finding out that, whoa, I'm not just black, you know, I'm an Israelite, like, or I'm this, or I come from a long bloodline from I'm a descendant of Abraham. And as far as racism go and how I dealt with it, one of the ways that I dealt with it was I came right back. You know, I started speaking out. You know, the way people left me alone was I found a voice of my own. So yeah, you had something sweet to say, you had something sharp to say at me, well, I had something sharp to say back. You know, life and death comes from the tongue.
Right.
And I consider my tongue a sword.
Right.
I swing it every time. And so growing up, yeah, you know, I would have insults. I was always attacking people online. I'm sure some people from that we grew up with, they remember that too. And that didn't make me too fond in the community, but they sure as hell left me alone.
Right.
And so, you know, growing up, I wanted to further that, but I wanted to stop insulting people as I grew with Christ and as I walked with Christ. And now it's not even so much as an insult, it's that ain't nothing.
Right.
That's not who I am. You know, every time I hear something that's called outside of my name, I tell Satan, get behind me. He has no place here for that.
Right. 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 Now, as a Black conservative, do you feel like you are well represented in the media today?
No, I think that much is obvious. And, you know, as far as representation goes, I don't really care for it. And here's why. Representation in media, the media is going to push what they want to push. We know that. And so we all know they hate Trump. We all know they hate conservatives and stuff. They don't want them figuring out. And, you know, that's because the media isn't Christian ran. They don't follow God. They don't want you to follow God. and they want you to be as miserable as they are. And when I see that, I see it every day. Therefore, I don't really engage as far as like media and representation goes. I see people like LeBron. LeBron 6'8". You know, he's a big dude. He's a very powerful man, and he's going around telling people, "Oh, black men are terrified." Not me. Not me. I'm not terrified. I walk through these streets every day. I get the whole sidewalk to myself when I walk down the street, and no cops bothering me. So it's, you know, I see stuff like that and I hear stuff like that. I don't really receive it, you know. So you got to, as far as media representation goes, you got to be your own media. You got to speak out. Clearly, what you're experiencing in America is not what the next guy is experiencing. Go out and speak your truth. You know, go out and tell people what you're experiencing, because what people receive in the media, they take it and then they generalize it. Nas said, one of his albums, Nasir, he said, the media throws mud, we use it to build huts. And that's a very powerful statement, man. We see what we see in the media, we start building these walls. And it's like, for me, that's not right. We shouldn't build walls. We got to go outside and we got to explore. You know, we got to talk to other people. Clearly, this is not our America.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, someone watching this who, you know, you and I both are on the same page with the media, with how it lies, how it's not run by Christians whatsoever. But your typical person watching this, and part of why I wanted to interview you today is your typical person watching this might be thinking, what's he talking about? You know, I watch my CNN every day. I watch my MSNBC. And from what I see, you know, Black people are afraid in America. And not only that, but with you supporting Trump, a lot of people who, coincidentally, the same people who watch those media networks would be confused by you supporting Trump because they believe that he's a racist, and they believe that he just doesn't like Black people, doesn't like anyone but white people. For someone watching with those concerns, with those with that thought process to what you just said, what do you have to say to that?
What I have to say about to them, as far as people looking from the outside, Christianity, conservatism, everything, like everything that isn't popular today is very hard to talk about, because we haven't taken that time to step out of our own perspectives, our own mindset, to go and see what that person is really about. I remember going to the Trump rally last year in Cincinnati at US Bank Arena and telling my friends about it. I said, you really going to that? Or, ain't nobody going to that, bro. Trump had sold out US Bank Arena. Trump had people on the outside standing, watching this man, you know, praising him, thinking of all the stuff he's done. And I see stuff like that. And then, of course, you know, the media paints a different picture. They show you the protesters. I remember seeing the media outlets reporting that day, showing all the protesters that were out. They were on a whole different street. They were nowhere near US Bank Arena. I see the people, I remember they was reporting about, oh, Trump said another false statement today. He said something about how Afghanistan has the leading murder rate in the country. And I remember being there and Trump was making jokes. He was like, he said, oh, let's give the media something to talk about. And he's making jokes, man. He said, what neighborhood you think has the highest crime rate in America? And someone shouted out Afghanistan. So he repeated what they said, knowing what the media was going to do, knowing what the media was going to say, knowing how people was going to react. So we see that, we know that, we acknowledge it. So why do we continue to feed into it? Why do we continue to let our perceptions become reality? When we watch CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, things like that. I don't participate in the news. I know it's bad news. I know what's going on in the country, but they're not providing solutions. They want you emotional. They get you all riled up and fired up, turning on your friends, family, on anyone who disagrees. Is that really healthy for you? Is that really providing a solution for this country? Did that bring down the numbers for police brutality? Did that stop the kids getting killed in Chicago? No, it doesn't. So we got to do something different. Instead of, you know, we could talk all day, we can get emotional all we want, but until we provide solutions, until we provide real change, nothing's going to really happen.
Yeah. Now, some people watching this might be thinking, well, Darius, I'm watching this, and black people in America, statistically, I mean, you look at the numbers, they have had a bad hand as a whole, right? Um, why is that?
What do you explain more on as far as the bad hand?
Yeah, in terms of in terms of looking at results, looking at in America, in terms of incarceration, in terms of median household income, crime in their communities, like black communities across America, are struggling compared to other communities, or at least that's the perception, right? So, uh, why is that?
The reason why that is because the black community continues to rely on their government instead of on their God. I've been saying it for years that the black people are the true Israelites, the true Hebrews. And like Jeremiah once said to the Hebrews and the Israelites back in Judah and Israel, come back home, repent, come to God. It's no different 2,000 and so years later. And we relied on government to put us where we're at today. We rely on Section 8. But to rely on Section 8 means to remove the black father from the household. That's the only way that the woman and the children will receive housing. We rely on welfare. Welfare, they give us a cut, we call it government cheese. They give us a block of government cheese and we feed off of that. But instead of using that and build more, or instead of using that to go out and do more for ourselves and for our community, we stay where we're at. We have more children. We further extend the welfare rate. And there's other factors that limit into that too. There's the crime. There's there's no real jobs as far as in black communities. And you always see McDonald's, you'll see Cricket Wireless, you'll see stores, corner stores, but you don't see any real businesses. You don't see black owned businesses. You don't see black ownership. To me, being free from police brutality, to me, being free from the oppression that's in this country is to own. It's black ownership. We got to go out and buy our own. You see these communities out here, we take a look at the Jews in New York. We take a look at the Hispanics across the country. They stick together. They all about togetherness. They used to see their grandma in the same home with them. It's 3 generations of family in one home. We don't see that in the same as far as the black community. We're taught, oh, we're not doing it by ourselves. You're not really making it. Why are we taught that way? Is schools, what really is that cause? And I feel like if we go out, we take those chances like my mom took. My mom, she's from the projects in Louisville. She's from the West End. She made it all the way up. And, I look at the opportunity she made, and she never once said anything about welfare. I never heard Section 8 come out of her mouth, and things like that. She provided example for us that set us on to be kings and to further our family and to further our community. And so as far as black communities, as far as what I have to say to them, we have to start owning. We have to start creating our own. We have to start creating our own businesses. If you don't like how the police is being ran, protect yourselves like the black. We don't like how we're being treated. Create your own communities. Build yourself up. We got to stop relying on our government. Our government is not here for us. Our government, if anything, they're keeping us from a truth that we do not know.
Yeah, and I was hoping you were going to hit on the fatherlessness, because I think that is the big thing. And in the 1960s, for those of you who don't know, under Lyndon B. Johnson, when he, a Democrat, he launched the War on Poverty, is what he called it, and he gave out these welfare checks, and he said, you can get this money, but in order to get this amount of money, you can't have a father in the home. So that's a great point. Now, could you elaborate, though, on why fathers in the homes are so important?
I'll elaborate. A mother is there to nurture. A father provides, he protects. And we see a lot of single moms, they say they're doing both out here, but I'm here to tell you that you're not. You need an example of a man in a household, not a weak man, a real man. And, my father, he was a real man. He is a real man. He still is to this day. He's a very powerful man. He doesn't say much, but his actions speak everything. Growing up, going to school, my father, he had us, me and my brothers, repeat a mantra. And he would say, what's the first commandment? The first commandment is to love the Lord with all your heart, with all your strength, with all your soul, with all your might. The second commandment, love your neighbor as yourself. Who are you? Kings. Who are you? Leaders. He said, what are you going to do today? Dominate. Read the instructions before you do the work. He said, who loves you? God loves us. Our parents love us, and we love ourselves. We're repeating this daily. Daily, he's getting this into us. Daily, we're going outside saying, come on, let's go out. Let's do something. Come on, let's spend some time together. And this time, little do we know, we think we just going outside with our dad. You know, we think we just having fun. We think we're repeating some silly mantra. But in reality, he's training us up. He's building us up. And we're watching this example of a man, you know. So that way, when we grow up and we become 21, when we get to that age where we become fathers, we already know what type of example to set. You know, we ask some of these Black men to be fathers in their communities, but not a lot of them had had a chance to be a son first. And my father was one of those people. You know, my father didn't have a father. And, you know, for a while that affected him. And it did a great deal on his psyche. And I strongly believe if he didn't come to Christ, I don't think he would have gotten out of that. And so for him to be that powerful, to be such a man of faith, to set that example, it made it all the more easier to speak out and be the man that I am today.
Yeah, no, that's really powerful with what you said with your father setting that example. Now let me move this interview forward because we wanted to talk about what it's like being a Black conservative. What's your impression of the Democratic Party?
My impression of the Democratic Party, I always joke around. You know, that's the type of person I am. I always have jokes, especially in times of tragedy and trouble. You got to make light of it because then you'll get caught and you'll be emotional like everyone else. So when it comes to the Democratic Party, I always throw an N in the middle, Democratic Party. You know, they're hateful. You know, they want others to suffer. They want everyone acting the same. You know, they're not real big fans of capitalism. And I don't want to generalize. Yeah, of course, there's a lot of people that lean more towards the middle and they're more moderate. But this is what I see as far as Democratic leaders.
Yeah.
There isn't much of them. We see that. You know, we see Joe Biden struggling to formulate sentences. You could tell he's just a puppet. You could tell that someone above him is just stringing him along, feeding him a script. And when he gets to president, boom. You know, who knows what's going to happen. As far as what I see with Democrats, how do you lose somebody like the Black vote? You know, you've had it for years. And for them to just be losing that more and more over the years. Now, I'm not saying that the Blacks are going out and they're voting Republican. I'm not saying that they all went out and voted for Trump, right? That a lot of them are not voting. A lot of our people don't see the benefits of voting at this point because we see the evils of both sides. Black vote only to keep them in the same impoverished areas. You know, we see the conservatives, they see someone like me and they quickly want to use that voice to get more Blacks for that vote. But of course, still, there's nothing being done in the communities. There's nothing being done to build up our communities, to get people out of these impoverished situations. So, you know, I don't think too highly of Democrats, but, you know, I hear them out. You know, I respect their views. And at the end of the day, if that's what you believe, that's what you believe.
Yeah. Now, you hit on a lot there. You said Democrats aren't too big on capitalism. Now, some people look at that and they say, well, Black people are the Black community and other communities across America, I think maybe Native American as well, are not seeming to get ahead the way others like the whites, the Jews are in capitalism. Could you speak on your, as a Black conservative, what's your impression of capitalism? Is it good? Is it bad?
The thing about capitalism that people have to understand, excuse me, capitalism has nothing to do with color. That's the whole point.
Right.
You know, when the pilgrims came over, they were searching over for religious beliefs. They wanted freedom. So capitalism is no different. Capitalism is capitalizing on your opportunities. Opportunities that you see every day. If you don't like something that's going on, or if you see something that could be innovated and done better, you can go out, make something, sell it, and get rich off of it. Socialism isn't like that. Our government isn't built like that. Our government has some qualities, but is overall not a capitalist government. And we see that, and here's for example, we'll take construction. Construction in Ohio takes forever. We know this. And, you know, especially on government projects, they seem to take years. And it's just sitting there. Now imagine if you had a privately owned, construction-owned company, and they're going out and they're building roads for, say, half the price. And they're doing it in double the time. That's capitalism. I'd rather hire that company, and they'll pave these potholes on these streets a hell of a lot quicker than, say, ODOT or Ohio Department of Transportation. You know, the people who fix the roads, the construction people like that. We'll take another example. What's a good example here as far as capitalism goes? As far as building your own business. Say you want to go out, you want to sell something. You know, we see as far as weed, we see people trying to legalize that, get it legal, push it out. They want to sell it. We just made a lot of people a lot of money. But to be a gatekeeper for it, for the government to sit here and say, no, you got to pay us first. We want 20 grand up front. We want 100 grand up front. We want to put a tax on that. That's not very capitalistic. You know, it's a plan. If people want to sell it, they should sell it. That's capitalism. It's capitalizing on the opportunities that you have, opportunities that you see around you that could build up not only you, but your family and your communities.
Yeah, no, that's powerful, and that's a good point. It seems like socialism, it's all under the guise of we're going to give you guys more stuff, but in actuality, it seems to be capping opportunity and putting more obstacles for people who want to capitalize on their situation.
I strongly feel that people are only socialists in this country because they believe they cannot get rich. For some reason, I don't know when it happened, but people feel like that. The middle class is as high as you can go. That's the ceiling. I'm here to tell you that's not true. You know, I tell people this all the time. People wouldn't be saying eat the rich if they only learned how to fish. And man, if you just went out, you know, you learn something, you see something you want to do, learn a trade, pick up something. You know, you don't have to go to school for that. I went to school for videography, just to go home and see the very same courses on YouTube for free. So it's more of you go, I see the system for what it is, but I'm gonna work my way around it. I'm gonna bend these rules a little bit. That's capitalism. That's capitalizing on your opportunities. To me, socialism is, oh, that person got a little too much. That's pocket watching. We don't like that. I don't do pocket watching. Yeah, oh, that person got a little too much. We see Jeff Bezos. Well, everyone asking Jeff Bezos, oh, Jeff Bezos can end world hunger right now. Jeff Bezos don't want to do that. When Jeff Bezos made Amazon, he wasn't like, oh, yeah, I can't wait to end world hunger with this. No, he saw himself capitalizing on his opportunities, building up himself, building up his family, building up his community. And he did that. He don't have to do shit else. That's America. For us to change that and for us to bring that down, that's not right, man. I don't agree with that at all.
Yeah, I think that you make a really good point with people who believe in socialism, believe in communism, do believe, for some reason, they believe that there's a cap and that they do get limited at the middle class or in the lower class. Why do people see that?
I believe people see it that way because we're too busy watching and we're not busy doing. We sit around, we watch Netflix all day. We watch Disney Plus all day. We watch Hulu all day. Imagine the time that you spent playing video games, watching TV, and you put that towards a skill. You put that towards something that you want to do. You know, something big, a big idea, a bigger purpose. Okay, you realize that you can't do that alone. This is something bigger than you now. You take that idea, you grab a couple friends and say, hey, I got this idea, let's build. Now y'all all putting money in on this, right? So now you got a little infrastructure. Okay, we got the infrastructure, we got the product, let's sell it. Now you selling it, right? Now you're making this money. And for me, when it comes to, of course, I'm trying to start my own business. I have aspirations to start my own business. The hardest part is getting the people together, getting the things, the tools necessary. But after that, it's smooth sailing. Once you start rolling, you're rolling. And, you know, I see that with Amazon. I see that with people like Bill Gates. I see that with people like Kanye West, people who just, they believe in themselves, therefore they invest in themselves, and they see a profit. You know, we put another example, you know, take our jobs. We go to our jobs every day. We make sure we're on time. We're clocking in on time. We're doing everything right, hoping the boss sees us and tells us good job. Imagine that time you spent pleasing your boss, pleasing the people around you at your job, making sure you're doing your job right. Imagine that time spent, and you put that into yourself. You know, you put that into your own ideas and your own goals. We go home, we treat ourselves like shit. We treat ourselves like crap. We eat whatever, you know, we do whatever, we lay around. But as soon as we get to work, hey, John, no, man, we gotta take that and we gotta put that time into ourselves, man. That's how we capitalize.
Yeah. And I think that you make a lot of great points there. I mean, a stat I always like to tell people is well, first of all, capitalism, people who make money in capitalism, it's important to note that they don't make it. There's this weird misconception that capitalists are just greedy people who steal from, you hear terms like wage slavery, stuff like that. They make money by helping people. They have a product or a service that people want and that people will pay for because it solves a problem. And the other thing is people don't recognize that opportunity because they're so stuck in their ways. They're stuck in just doing what the media says and listening to them. I always tell people who I've coached here in sales and stuff, the average American reads less than a book a year, and it's a fiction book. And the average millionaire reads 2 books a month, and it's business or nonfiction. So you make some great points there. I want to move on from capitalism here. And let's talk about police brutality and Black Lives Matter in particular. What's your impression on the issue of police brutality and then specifically the organization of Black Lives Matter?
My thoughts on police brutality and Black Lives Matter. Of course, like I said, when I was younger, I used to be very outspoken about police brutality. Of course, I really used to get fired up. And a class that I took when I was in high school was called Political Radicalism and Thought. And we had a couple of Black Lives Matter activists. They came out, they spoke up. And it really inspired me to go out, see what their protests are about. This was around 2016, around a couple years ago, around 4 years ago. So here I am, I'm about to sign on. I'm about to go to DC to become an activist and train, you know, and learn how to get into Black Lives Matter. I was very passionate about the group. Here's where they lost me. Black Lives Matter lost me when outside, I call them outside agitators. When outside agitators started to put their influence on the group. It became something more about Black lives. You know, this group started, Black Lives Matter, we forget, but it started over the death of Trayvon Martin. And we just wanted justice. We just wanted these cops to say, hey, we need police reform. That's what we was asking for, police reform. Keep that in mind. And so we asked for police reform. We asked that these cops, you know, more detailed background checks. We asked that these people look into, like, who's really joining in on this police force? Who are these people that are coming in into these police academies? learning all that they do to require police hours, and then they go out and they just harass people. And it's more than just blacks. It's whites. It's people of all colors that are being harassed by police. And so now here we are 4 years later. What is Black Lives Matter? Black Lives Matter is we got to destroy capitalism. We got to accept gays and trans and the LGBT community. That's been a real big thing lately. It's if you're going to support Black lives, you got to support everything else with it. I did not like that. I do not like that. I do not support that. That was not what this movement was supposed to be about. If you gay, if you trans, and you have your own little movement, you start that. Don't attach that onto what Black lives is about.
Right.
So let's connect that to police brutality. To me, I don't think police brutality is as big as the problem as we make it seem in this country. If we pay close attention, every 4 years, a video leaks out of an unarmed black man being shot dead in the street. If you ask me, it's just a media tactic to get votes, to keep blacks in fear, to keep them voting Democrat. Because you see, as soon as a black man dies, this is why we gotta do this. This is why we gotta do that. This is why you gotta keep voting Democrat, man. Because we'll keep you safe from that. We'll make sure that you're not shot down by police. Keep voting Democrat. Oh, you see what these Republicans do, man. You see what these police out here do? Defund the police. Defund them all. That's what they want you to do. And here's what I gotta say to that, what if we do defund the police? I always said this for a while, but the police become a private organization. We always talk about how we got to protect ourselves in their community, but how many people are really going to go out and do that? Especially when we do defund the police and there's no police out there, who are you going to call? When your house is getting kicked in by activists and they're demanding, they're asking questions. You say the N-word, you do this, you do that. And they start asking you who you are, what's your beliefs in. The rich are going to buy out the police. And the rich, the police are going to protect them because the rich put money in their pockets. Right now, it's everybody, right? It's our taxpayer dollars. That's what we pay the police to do. We pay them to protect and serve. So, yes, police brutality is a problem. Yes, it has many things like that. But how do we get out of that? It all goes back to black ownership. It's going to your local police station and saying, "Hey, let's talk." I remember when Donald Trump wanted to execute martial law because he saw all those killings going on in Chicago. Keep in mind, more black kids have died in Chicago this year than there have been COVID-19 deaths for children. So you see something like that. Donald Trump wanted to do something about that. He wanted to execute martial law. Kanye West goes to the White House directly and says, "Let me handle that." That's black ownership. That's taking control over your community. That's going back to your community and say, "Hey, we got to cut this out." Because if we let the government handle it, we see what the government do. Y'all see how the government treats us like dogs. They stop and frisk us. They harass us every time we pass by on the street. That's everybody. When we know that's only a couple gangs in the community. That's a couple kids who want to tote guns and they want to shoot. It's taking ownership of your community. It's stopping by your local police station and to say, "Hey, let's work together." We want to get the guns off the street too. I remember living in Louisville. I forget the mayor's name at the time. I was very young, but my mom, she highly respected him for that. He would go to the West End and he would say, "Hey, I got cash. You trading your guns. You trading your unmarked guns and stuff. I'm not going to arrest you. I'll give you cash for them." Gangsters was lining up. Hey, lining up. Hey, you can have it. Where's my cash at? Crime went down. We don't see that too much anymore as far as in Louisville. And I strongly feel a way about that. And I have plans to change that myself, but that's for a later time. But, it's just little things like that. It's taking responsibility. It's going out in your community and saying, "Hey, I want to make a change. I want to make a difference. Let's do something."
Yeah. No, that Kanye example was really powerful. And that example you just gave was really powerful too. So let me ask you this. You mentioned earlier that you are a Christian, but for you, it's more a personal relationship with Christ than it is a just following a religion. And I'm the exact same way. And I've found that especially across the United States in black churches and white churches, a lot of churches seem to, in my eyes, a lot of churches seem to hurt more than they help, and they seem to teach unbiblical things. Talking about the black community specifically, do you feel like churches are helping or hurting in the black communities?
I can't really speak on as far as the black community because, you know, as it talks about in Corinthians, the church is the body.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everybody is a part of the church. If you claim to be a Christian, you're a part of the body of Christ. Mm. So I'll speak on as far as what I see as far as the body of Christ. I see contemporary Christianity today. I call them life point churches, you know, the fusion churches, the ones that say, oh, come on in, we'll accept you. And of course, yeah, that's a great mindset to have. Like, oh, if you're gay, we'll accept you. You know, if you done this, you done that, we'll accept you, we'll accept you. But the thing is, they're not allowing for change. Contemporary Christianity started hurting others when we stopped preaching the gospel. And what I mean by that is we took Christian truths out to convenience those who stand in the middle so they can keep them coming to church. So we can keep collecting their offering and keep furthering ourselves in the church. That's not what the church is about. Keep in mind when the church first started in Acts and Peter was out and they was all praying for each other. These were bums. They were rags. They had beards. They had scruffy hair. These weren't good looking guys. These weren't high class politicians. These weren't your suburban kids. You know, these were dudes in the street who were only hungry for Christ and nothing else. That's how they received those tongues of fire above their head. You know, so when I see stuff like that, I see how they were talking. You look, man, go back and see how they was talking in the Bible. Jesus, man, he was rough. Jesus spoke with direction. Jesus was pointing his finger. Jesus didn't tell you what you wanted to hear. Jesus told you what you needed to hear. And that's who Jesus was. Jesus spoke with such direction. Jesus didn't go to his disciples and said, hey guys, come on, you know, it's a great day out. Let's go fishing. Jesus said, pick up your nets. We're going fishing. And he said, all right. They got right up. You know, I see people like Stephen in the Bible. Stephen, who was one of the leaders of the new church coming out, he was so passionate about Christ. And they kept locking him up. They kept throwing him in jail. God kept letting that man out. He said, "No, he's spitting. Come on, let him out." And then one day they brought him in front of the king, and Stephen looked up and he said, "I can see it now." And he said, "What? What do you see?" He said, "The kingdom of God stretching out his hand and inviting me to sit by his side." Instantly, they stoned that man. Instantly. So why is it that what changed in those 2,000 short years, right? How do we become what I like to call doormat Christians? Just, you know, allowing ourselves to be stepped on. Yeah, it's one thing to turn the other cheek, but to sit here and, you know, to act, to just be nice all the time and to influence or to suggest instead of telling people what they need to hear. You know, I've been to a lot of churches in my day. My father, he's been a pastor for 30 years. I grew up in the church. And to see these new churches not talk about hell anymore, just to see them not talk about repenting for their sins, to pick and choose from the Bible and say, oh, to hand out these little positivity messages. This is not what the Bible is all about. Yes, the Bible grants great promises to people. Yes, it grants great blessings to people when you choose to follow him. But there's also been great times of trials and tribulation. Before Jeremiah could see the promised land, he had to watch Moses and his people struggle for 40 years. You know, he had to walk through the desert. And they fell short. You know, to watch Chronicles of Kings, the history of my people. They started off great, you know, great buildings for Solomon, temples carved out of gold, pillars honed out, and to watch it all be destroyed because we turned our back on God. We forgot who we were serving. We took our eyes off something else, and it only takes a minute. Moses went up to the mountain for just a couple of days to get some commandments scripted out, and they already forgot who they were. Oh, Aaron, we need a God to serve. Aaron didn't know what to do. Aaron was only the mouthpiece. God didn't choose Aaron. God chose Moses, and Moses was away for just a couple of days. And what Aaron did, he said, throw fire, cast your gold in there. And what came out? Ball. You know, what all these false idols and all these false gods, and we choose to follow them. It is no different today. You know, we add things on like astrology. We add things on like manifestation and the intermittent fasting and Buddhist practicing. Where do you think Buddha got that stuff from, man? You know, where you think all that wisdom and stuff came from? It came from God. How did it get perverted? When a person saw what God was doing and he said, I want that. I want that glory for myself. So I'm gonna put my name on that and call it my practice. That's not it. And so a lot of these things that we have a hard time doing is acknowledging that God is the true sovereign king of us all. He's the true creator of this world. And at the end of the day, it's him who decides who gets the increase and who gets the watering.
Yeah, no, and I've noticed that that's a big issue today is false idols. People put their preachers or their teachers or even their parents or celebrities is a big one. These politicians, they put them on a pedestal and they put them where God should be instead. So,
And what did Jesus have to say about that in Matthew? Jesus said, I didn't come to bring peace to the world. I came to bring a sword. You put your mother before me. You put your father before me. You put your kids before me. I don't know you. It's always been me first. I'm the Father. And now only through me are you going to get to heaven. Only through me will you know peace. And so it's like to continue to go back to police brutality, to continue to ask of your government, to continue to ask of your neighbor, hey, please stop killing us. Hey, please stop doing this. Please stop doing that. No, ask God. I follow God every day, man. And every day I have peace. And ain't no cops bothering me. You know, ain't nobody bothering me. I walk through, I got the scruffy hair, I got the nappy hair and stuff. Ain't nobody judging me because I choose not to judge others. I'm minding my business. And that's all God wants.
That's powerful, man. That's powerful. I've got a few more questions here for you. You and I, you know, as you know, but for those of you who don't know, we both went to a public school, a pretty nice public school with a relatively good education when looking at public schools. Do you feel that the curriculum gives a fair and accurate representation of history and specifically Black people's history and specifically in America?
I strongly disagree with the education of public schools. For one, I'm very grateful for the school that I went to. I tell people this all the time. I consider registered schools a college education. Not everybody was doing what we was doing in high school. I describe to others like the stuff that I was doing in high school and go, I didn't do that. So yes, there's a lot of good in public schools. There's a lot to be learned in public schools. But when it comes to a history aspect, there's a history book that they're missing, and that's the Bible. And just how they taught us in school that history is written by the winners, it's no different. It's no different today. We're seeing a lot of revisionist history. And you see it when they tear down these statues. And they tear down these statues of the prominent history figures. And they go, oh, it was a symbol of oppression. No, it was a reminder of what we shouldn't go back to. What will our kids learn? When there's you walk through the park and you see no statue, but you don't even know there was a war fought there. It's how many some years ago. So you could just walk through this park. You know, imagine we tore down the statue of Dr. King. You know, people would be outraged. And for us to forget the statues of Dr. King and his teachings and everything that he taught us, it's uncanny, right? So it should be no different to say everyone else. And as far as when it comes to history in public schools, there's a lot that they leave out. There's a lot that we're not learning in these public schools. And what I think of public schools today is less of an education and it's more of an indoctrination. And these kids that they're just being taught to just train a certain way, to think a certain way, and follow directions. To speak your mind, that's very bad, very, very bad. You know, to go against the grain, very bad. Go out, get you a job, go out, go to school. There was such a big push for that in our community.
Right.
And to not go to school, people thought you was a bum. You know, people thought you was something less. And I'm here to show you that I'm something more than that. So how do we learn more outside of public school? That goes to the parents. The parents, when the kids come home, all right, son, what you learned in school today? Hey, daughter of mine, what you learned in school today? Correct them, show them. And it goes back to reading that word and going back to reading that Bible and following God. You know, and even if you choose not to follow God, it's like, all right, let me show you something else. Let me tell you what they haven't been teaching you in them history class. You know, history stretches so much further than an American history textbook in 12th grade.
Yeah, no, that's a lot of great points that I agree with here. So white liberals, let's talk about them. They specifically seem to really want to help Black people, but it seems that whenever a Black person disagrees with the Democratic Party or a liberal agenda, correct me if I'm wrong, correct me if this hasn't been your experience, but that love seems to oftentimes turn to hatred. And have you experienced any of that from any white liberals? And what's your impression of them, generally speaking?
As far as liberals go, and because it's like this with Black liberals too. You know, I remember first telling my friends, hey, I voted for Donald Trump. The first thing I'm hearing is they're calling me a coon.
Yeah.
You know, it's not that I'm mad that you call me a coon or something like that for it, but your first thought is to insult me instead of continuing to come together and find a solution. Every day you hop on your socialist media page and you talk about love everybody and be kind to everybody. But the second someone goes out and says, hey, I like my president, I continue to pray for my president, you want to spew hateful things and block them and mute their page. To me, that's not love. You know, sweet and bitterness does not come out the same faucet. So if you claim to love, you gotta love everybody.
Right.
If you, I don't care if you hate just one person in the world. Everybody says, "Oh, I love everybody except for that man, Donald Trump." It's just an example.
Right.
That's not love. You're not truly loving, and that shows every day with these white liberals. And I see that, you know, you see in these videos. I saw a video the other day, just yesterday. This guy, he was holding a skateboard up to this dude. He said, "You're going to say the N-word? You're going to say the N-word? Say it again. I'll slap you with the skateboard." No Black person asked you to go out and start hitting others for saying the N-word. Keep in mind that this all started because we wanted police reform. Mm-hmm. Now it's become a free speech issue. Mm-hmm. Oh, you can't say this. You can't say that. You can't support him. You can't support that. When did it ever become like that? It should have never got to that point in the first place, especially if you claim that you're speaking from a position of love. So, you know, my message to liberals or to anyone who wants to just be on the side of you got to support this way, you got to support the other. My message to them is, if you're not loving everybody, man, you only hate. And, you know, hate, that fear, it only leads to anger. That anger leads to hate, it leads to suffering. You know, we get nothing out of it. We get nothing out of holding in these emotions. We get nothing out of being emotional all the time and thinking with our emotion. Look what it's gotten us. Right. It's getting a lot of people killed in the streets. We see these protesters, now they get ran over because they just thinking in emotion. And you see how these activists, they go out and they claim that they're for the people. They claim that they're on the front lines. What are they doing? They're not asking for reform. They're out there twerking in the street. They're out there breaking in to small businesses and homes, destroying the very things that we created so we could be free. That's not love. That's not reform. That's not activism. So, you know, we definitely have to make a change towards that. We have to stop being so one-sided, one-minded. We got to step out of our box. We got to destroy these labels that we're putting on to everybody. Once again, have you tried living life without labels? The less labels you have, the more enjoyable life is. And that's what I strongly believe.
Yeah, no, I think that that's a really powerful message, and it's one that is really. I mean, I remember Kanye West talking about this when everyone was saying how could you possibly support the president, and he said and this is one of my favorite tweets is he said I love Donald Trump because he's my brother, we're both Dragon Energy, and he said I love everyone. And I tell people when they say, well, I hate President Trump, I say, if you hate one person, you can't love anyone. When people tell me, I get plenty of people who say they hate me because I'm conservative. I say, you can hate me, but if you hate me, then you're going to be suffering because you can't have hate and love at the same time. I think that what you said about sweetness and bitterness coming out of the same faucet was a beautiful way to put that. So let me ask you this, Darius. What needs to change in America for the Black community to thrive?
My message for the Black community is it's an old one, and they don't like hearing it, but it needs to be said. Repent, for the kingdom of God is at hand. God is calling us home. God put us on this earth to experience it, not to die on it. So if we want to thrive, if we want to see our children grow up and not live in fear, put the fear of God in them. To have the fear of God is to understand all things, and that's where it starts with. Understanding starts with the fear of God. We got to come home to Christ. We got to accept God into our lives. Yes, I know it's hard because what we see on television and what we see on social media, it tells us to glorify ourselves. God didn't do that. You did that. You deserve that. You deserve to go out and buy this. You go out and do that. Worship yourself. I'm not. Every time I worship myself, I was brought down to the ground. Every time I went out and I did something for myself, man, I can't tell you how many times I looked stupid. But every time I exalted God, I move up just a little bit more. I get a little closer to my goals. I get to where I want to be in life, all because I forsake my pride. I gave up, I denied myself, and I accepted Jesus into my heart. We got to look within, man. And the more, when we start looking within and we start seeing the Christ that's within us, we don't have to rely on government. We don't have to rely on others. All we have to do is rely on God. And that's what God's doing, man. He's calling us home in a time of pandemic, in a time where all this strife and turmoil, we're on the brink of a civil war and a racial war in America. God's moving. God's calling the young people up. He's building up warriors. He's building up strong men of God. He said, look, I'm gonna give them communities. I'm gonna give them what they asked for. And then I'm gonna show you what it's like to follow me instead of following your government. Your government doesn't want to give you anything. Your government doesn't want to give you equality. I said on Facebook, and it sounded pretty insensitive. I said the powers that be are laughing at your protest. They don't care for what you have to say. Was I not wrong? Did a black man, they was protesting out in the streets 2 months ago, and did a black man not die once again 2 months later? They want that. They want your emotions. They want your hate. They love it when you feed into that because it serves their agenda. God has no agenda for you except for his love for you. God wants nothing more than for you to build you up and to see where you want to be, to give you a family, to make sure that you provided for it, make sure you have everything you need. And so that's all I have for the black community is to follow God. And no, I don't have any other advice for them. I'm not going to give them anything else, because to give them anything else, to lead them away from Christ, is to further their destruction. Hosea chapter 4, man, my people do not die from COVID. My people don't die from police brutality. They die from lack of knowledge.
All right, we cut out there. We had some technical difficulties, but Darius, this has been a great interview. I just have one more question for you. You gave a message to the black community in particular. Now, for the average person watching this video, and your average voter, because we're talking, I know we talked a lot about Christianity, but we also talked about conservatism. We talked about politics. What's your message to people of all races who are watching this right now?
For message for just all the casuals out there, man. I have the same message for you as I do the Black community. Repent, for the kingdom of God is at hand. Here's what I say to this, man. A lot of people, they're obsessed with knowledge. We're in a big information age. We're in a spiritual war, and the spiritual war, and like all wars, truth is the first thing to go out the window. Mm-hmm. How do you get truth in a day and age where everyone is trying to mislead you and misinform you? You get wisdom. You get understanding. Wisdom is something that is achieved by growing old hairs and living a full life. Now, wisdom can be given to anybody. I know of this woman, her name is Wisdom. It talks about in the first 8 chapters of Proverbs, this woman, she goes up to the highest point in the city. She lays out fruit. She lays out food on her table. She invites everyone in who's willing to listen. Her name is Wisdom. She'll give you all the knowledge that you want. If God is the strict father, and he's strict on his commandments, and he's strict on his teachings, Wisdom is the kind mother. She's the sweet and nurturing mother. She gives you knowledge. She'll guide your way through the narrow path that is Christ. To get wisdom is to get understanding, and to deny it is a whole other thing in particular. What does wisdom say? When you deny her, when your calamity comes, I will laugh at it. I will mock you when your fears strike. So we had to change our ways. We got to forsake ourselves. We got to deny ourselves. We have to turn to Christ. And yes, it's a hard walk. Yes, you'll be persecuted for it. There's a lot of things the world will forsake you for it. But what you gain in return, it's immeasurable. The treasures that you receive in heaven is immeasurable. It can't be measured on earth. It can't be counted. It's worth more than anything that's in your house. It's worth more than anything that you're aspiring to be. So, to take this walk with Christ, to have a relationship, to start a relationship with Christ, it's pretty easy. Join a local church. Open the word, open the word of God. And in the beginning was the word, and the word was with God. So before man even wrote it, we always hear that. Oh, man wrote it. Why should I believe it? It's a 2,000-year-old book. Before anything, before this earth was even earth, there was the word. We got to open up the word. To open up the word, you get understanding. To open up the word, you know who God is. To open up the word, you know who his people are. You learn how to be a Christian. It's not a self-help book. It's a book. It's a guide through life. Like Marty McFly, when he had that little almanac, and it's no different than that, man. It tells you everything that you need to know and how to operate and move through this earth. And that's all I really have for them, man.
Wow. Great. Well, this has been a great interview, Darius. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to meet with me today. For those of you who are watching, I hope you got a new perspective, one that you're not used to hearing. I can't remember the last time I turned TV and I heard them talk about God, and that should probably tell you something, right? So
right.
Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like the video. Make sure you comment, make sure you share it, make sure you let Darius know what you think of the video. Hit the subscribe button. Once again, this is going to be your favorite YouTube channel. We're bringing on a lot of different perspectives, and I've got a lot of exciting stuff planned for the next few days. So with that being said, I'm going to wrap this up, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, and God bless.
Hey, man, God bless you. Thank you for having me.
All right.